Okay, good morning, early afternoon to everybody in America and whoever's in Israel. Good almost evening. Today's a very special day. Today is the yard site, the day that Rachel Imenu passed away. Rachel Imenu is the fourth of our four mothers, and in some ways she's the most essential. She was the love of Yaakov Avinu. She gave birth to Yosef Atzadik and to Benjamin. And Rachel, in many ways, is the mother that we most connect to, because all of our forefathers and foremothers, they're all buried in what's called the Cave of Machpelah. Rachel Imenu is the only one who's not buried there. She's not buried with her husband. She was buried on the way after she passed away. And when Yaakov Avinu saw his son Yosef, he said, "Don't be mad at me. Don't be upset with me. This is what your mother would have wanted." Why would his mother have wanted to be buried outside of the Cave of Machpelah? So in Kabbalah, it teaches that this Cave of Machpelah, so to speak, represents Olam Haba. That the place that our forefathers and foremothers are is in the next world, in an amazing place, a peaceful place, a place of rest and tranquility and completion. So why wouldn't Rachel want to be there? Because in Kabbalah, it's explained that Rachel represents the Shekhinah. That even though the Torah is speaking about a woman, and she was a human being and she was a woman, in fact, she was the complete manifestation of godliness in this world, in the physical world. This is alluded to by the fact that she's female. In spirituality, maleness is always the concept of transcendence, something above, something unlimited, but not necessarily something that you can grasp or something that's tangible, something actual, which has a lot to do with why men are the way that they are and why they aspire for things that they do. And female godliness, or the Shekhinah, like we call the feminine expression of God. So this is the imminent experience of God. This is Hashem, how you feel him down here. This is actual. So this is Rachel Imenu. And why did Rachel want to be buried outside? Because she understood that we would be in exile for another 2,000, 3,000 years. And Rachel was the only foremother who would prefer to stay with us for those thousands of years, so to speak, with us in our pain, just like we said that the Shekhinah is with you when you're suffering. How is Hashem with you when you're suffering? Because Rachel is buried with us. She never left us. So that was more important to her, to be with her children, even though she wouldn't have wholeness or completion, so that they could have comfort along the way until finally the Geula takes place, and then Rachel as well will be with her husband, which is a code word for Hashem. So Rachel stayed here with us instead of to be connected to her male counterpart. So Rachel is very, very special. And something important that Rabbi Nachman says, and it's very critical for our lesson, because Rabbi Nachman is teaching right now that speech has the ability to help a person go from the lowest places and to achieve the highest levels. And I don't know if you guys got a chance to see the article that I wrote from this past week, where I spoke about the power of prayer and how you don't really appreciate it until you go through darkness and challenges in your life. So this is all the concept of Rachel, even though in that article I spoke about Sarah, but they're corresponding. So Rachel Tefillah is this ability to go up to the highest places, that she could take you from that lowest place and to bring you all the way up, which is why she needs to be near us. What specifically are we trying to work on? What is it that's keeping us in a low place? What is it that would bring us to a higher place? So Rabbi Nachman says that every single Jew has inside of them a spark of Mashiach. And this spark of Mashiach, this spark of the Redeemer, is actualized through rectifying the area of the Brit. This is something that Rabbi Nachman speaks about constantly. That is, that a person's connection to Hashem, his ability to apprehend and to feel and experience Hashem in their life in a felt, sensed way, is based on the level that a person has rectified his own area of sexuality in his life. just to put it simply, that he is not a slave to his desires sexually, but he becomes a master of those desires. And those desires, so to speak, work for him. So then instead of him being a slave to physicality, he is able to use the physical world as a means, as a vehicle for the expression of godliness in the world. And this is what it means to be a tzaddik. This is what it means to be a Jew. And this is what we're all trying to achieve in this world, whether we know it or whether we don't know it. So how does a person grow in this? So Rabbi Nachman says, the more that a person speaks to Hashem, the more that his tefillah, his prayer, reaches higher levels, meaning the more that he sees that Sarah is beautiful or that Rachel Imenu is beautiful, to that degree, he's able to give birth to Yosef in his life. Because we see that Rachel Imenu is the one who gave birth to Yosef. So what's the connection between Rachel, who represents tefillah, she represents Malchut, she represents Emunah, and Yosef? And the answer is, to the degree that a person grows in their Emunah, in their faith, in their tefillah, in their prayer, to that degree, their ability to master the physical world, or in this case, sexuality, and use it as an expression and vehicle for godliness. So that gives birth to Yosef. So Rabbi Nachman is teaching us, based on Kabbalah, that in fact, everything in the physical world is only a mere reflection of the spiritual. So therefore, if a person's looking for health and they don't have health, it's because their health, so to speak, is not coming down from above. Why isn't it coming down from above? What's the blockage in the channel? So we learned in our last Likutey Moharan class that Hashem has 4 letters in his name. A Yud, a Hey, a Vav, and a Hey. Usually it's like right to left or left to right. If for the purpose of the class, we'll just imagine it up to down. That way we look at it like a channel. So in order for Shefa to come down, in order for blessing to come down, in this case, this example of health, in order for health to come down from above to below, it needs to come down uninhibited by the Yud and the Hey and the Vav and the Hey. The Yud has to be whole, the Hey has to be whole, the Vav has to be whole, the Hey has to be whole. And specifically the first 3. So we learned that when those first 3 letters are whole, then what comes down is called the 39 lights. If you can imagine, this is the full expression of blessing. This is the full expression of godliness that can come down from above to below. This is corresponding, because it's the gematria of Tal. Tal means dew. We know that Chazal teach that the Tal of Torah, the dew of Torah, can resurrect a person. And we usually think about this at the end of times, because the Torah speaks about the fact that all of our grandparents and parents and great-grandparents, they're all going to come up from the dead. Not in the way of the horror movies, but in the most beautiful way, that, so to speak, those physical bodies that were buried there, there's a reassembly and there's a gathering of bodies, and then there's a ruach that's blown into all of them to begin anew. Once the world takes a new state of consciousness, the next step of evolution, following the coming of the Mashiach. So what is it that resurrects everybody? What's so powerful that can resurrect a person from the dead? And the answer is Tal. And according to Kabbalah, we're learning that it's the 39 lights of Hashem's name, that's what resurrects a person. So if we look at the Yud of Hashem's name, so that is how much? If you spell it a certain way, it equals 10. Then you have the Hey of Hashem's name. You spell it Hey, Aleph, you have 6. So that's 16. And then you have a Vav. Vav is spelled Vav, Aleph, Vav. So that's equals 13. So 13 plus 6 plus 10. If I'm correct. My dad can correct me. He's very good at math. Oh, Hashem. So that equals 39. So therefore, the Yud and the Hey and the Vav of Hashem's name, it equals 39, because corresponding to the 39 lights that resurrects a person. And we don't just mean at the end of time, it means right now. If a person has any level of poverty, he's considered to some degree, he has a level of spiritual death, because the Torah teaches that poverty is just as painful as death. If a person's depressed, if a person doesn't have health, or doesn't have children, all of those are corresponding to some level of what's called mate, spiritual death. So therefore, these 39 lights could resurrect that person. How does a person draw down these 39 lights? He has to do it through way of tikkun of the Brit, through Yosef. Okay. Now Rabbi Nachman is teaching like this. When a person, let me just find my place. 1 second. Okay. Mishkan, Mishkan. The pasuk says Mishkan twice. Why does it say Mishkan twice? The Mishkan, where was it? It was in the area of Shiloh. Shiloh is a city, and this city was in the tribe of Ephraim. It was in the area of the tribe of Ephraim. Ephraim comes from Yosef. That means that somehow the Mishkan is intricately connected to Yosef. We know that Yosef is the concept of the tzaddik. He's the concept of tikkun brit. So Mishkan means that a person has rectified his brit. How do we see that? Because it's 2 times. Why is it 2 times? Because we said before that when a person rectifies their brit, they achieve rectification of the area of sexuality. They become a master of the physical world instead of the physical world owning them. Then what you have is 2 times lametet, because we know that when they created the Mishkan, there was 39 creative works that they did in order to create the Mishkan, whether it was building or sewing or painting or all of these were different types of malachas. This is actually, for anybody who doesn't know, people wonder, why don't we do certain things on Shabbat? So those things that we don't do on Shabbat, they're corresponding to the 39 works of the Mishkan. However, we built the Mishkan, those ways are prohibited from being used on Shabbat because, so to speak, the 6 days of the week are corresponding to the building of the Mishkan, and the Shabbat is that the Mishkan's built. So if you're building on Shabbat, it doesn't make any sense. We're just supposed to be experiencing what we built during the week and enjoying it. So we're saying now that when a person is building their own personal Mishkan, which we're saying is the Brit, so it takes 39 works, right? So that's corresponding to the 39 types of Malachot, Gamrinam, Mishkan. So Rabbi Nachman says that the Arizal teaches that Mishkan is 39 times 2. Why? Because you said Mishkan the first time, that's the 39 works. And then you Mishkan a second time, that's the 39 works. That's 78. Mish Shomer Brito, and a person that he is Shomer Brit, that means that he, like we said, on a basic level, he doesn't waste physical seed. And on a deeper level, it means that he doesn't go outside of the confines of the mitzvot of the Torah when it comes to sexuality. He doesn't see things that are prohibited. He doesn't hear things that are prohibited. And even things that are not connected to sexuality is an extension of this. And let's say a person, he's eating food. If he's eating in order that he should have health, if he's eating in order that he should have strength to move forward with his day, if he's eating that he should be able to serve Hashem at a higher level or connect to people with energy and strength, or to find Hashem in the food, So that's also tikkun brit. But when a person is eating only for the sake of the pleasure of the food, so then the food, so to speak, owns him. Then he's planning, every moment for what his next meal is going to be. Why is he planning every moment for his meal? Just eat. Who cares? And the answer is because the food, to some degree, owns him, right? It has ownership over him. So in that area, he's pagama brit. And this goes for food. This goes for anything physical. But when a person shmir at the brit, even though he's doing the 39 malachos, right? Because he has to build his life, he has to build his spiritual world. But these 39 works are the works of the Mishkan. So that's good work. That's spiritual work. That means that everything that you're doing, so to speak, is making money for you. It's making spiritual money for you. It's making physical money for you. Everything that you're doing is coming and it's affecting something in a positive way for you and for everybody around you, because it's building this Mishkan, which we know the Mishkan, what was great about it, that was the revelation of godliness took place in the Mishkan. And like we said before, the Mishkan is corresponding to the Brit. We know that Avram Avinu, in the beginning of this parsha, he has the first Brit Milah ever, right? The Orach Chaim says, notice that the parsha starts Vayera. that Abraham sees Hashem. So why is it connected to the Brit? Because the Or Chaim says that as soon as the Avraham Avinu had the Brit Milah, which on a physical way means that he actually gave himself a Brit, but spiritually it means that he achieved Tikkun of the Brit at 90 years old. So when he did that, he saw Hashem clearly for the rest of his life, every single day. Yud Kei Vav Kei was with him always. Because that's the Mishkan, meaning he built the Mishkan for himself in his life. Like the Torah says that we should build the Mishkan and then he's going to dwell within us. So all the Mefarshim, the Chazal, they ask, it doesn't make any sense. Build the Mishkan, I'm going to dwell in the Mishkan. Not build the Mishkan, I'm going to dwell in the Jewish people. But the answer is the Mishkan is the area of a Jew that's called his Brit. And when he rectifies it, he creates a space for Hashem in his life because he's saying that the Hashem has enough for me, that I don't need to look for my joy in the physical world. I don't need to look for my satisfaction in the physical world. I can use the physical world as a means to an end, not that it's an end in and of itself, right? A person can go buy a car and he can use that car to get from point A to point B. So he has rectified his Brit in the area of driving. But sometimes a person, he wants a car because it makes loud noises. He wants a car because it looks beautiful. He wants a car because it's going to make him look cool to his friends and family. He wants a car because that's what he saw in music videos growing up. So all of those are called Pagama Brit in the area of the car. Why? Very simply, because he has confused the means for the end. He's saying that Hashem can't make me happy with spirituality. I need to find it in the car. That's called Pagama Brit in that area. So you can try and think about it after this class. Are there places in the physical world that I am, so to speak, saying, even subtly or unconsciously, that Hashem can't make me happy because I need it here. I need to impress this person. I need to get it from food, right? I can't get pleasure from Hashem. I need to get it from physicality. I need to get it from sex. I need to get it from porn. I need to get it from all of these things. So what you're saying is that I need pleasure from something Hashem can't give it to me. That's called Bagama Brit. But when a person realizes and experiences and lives his life according to the fact that Hashem can get it from the Torah alone, so that's called Tal. Then he gets resurrection. Then his whole life is turned upside down and he gets to see Hashem by Yeira. Then Hashem just appears to you. Because all of your works are building the Mishkan, meaning they're building a space for Hashem in your life. Hainu Mishkan V'nyane, Bichinat Lamed Tetorot, because now you're going to draw down those 39 lights, the lights of dew, the lights of Tal that resurrect a person, that give him spiritual resurrection, that gives him physical health, that gives him physical parnasa, physical money to sustain himself, to be able to bring his zivu close to him, or even if he's already married, that they should have peace between them. All of that is coming from these 39 lights. There's nothing in this physical world that's not an expression of those 39 lights. So if a person doesn't have something that he needs in this world, it's because he has some type of deficiency in the 39 lights. And that's because he must have some deficiency in the area of the Brit. However, who that he blemishes his Brit, this is not that he's building the Mishkan with his 39 works. Now, instead of that, he's going to work for 39 hours and he's destroying the Mishkan. Instead of building the Mishkan, meaning building that space of revelation for Hashem in his life, he's destroying that space. He's not sanctifying that space. He's desanctifying it. And he's now pushing Hashem out of the garden, so to speak. Like we know that Adam Arishon, he was told to build, to guard, and to watch over the garden. Really, what was he telling to do? He was being told to build the Mishkan. And what did he do? He ate from the tree. That whole eating from the tree, and Rabbi Nachman teaches in Likutey Moharan that eating in the Torah is used as a code word for sex, meaning that he had a blemish of the Brit. And because of that blemish in the Brit, meaning the blemish of sexuality, then he didn't have the 39 works of building the Mishkan. He had the 39 works of Lechurba. He destroyed the space. And now Hashem was not able to stay in that space with him. And that's what the Zohar says, that it's not that Hashem kicked Adam out of the garden. Adam kicked Hashem out of the garden. And now he doesn't feel like the garden is guarded. He feels like he's toiling day and night. Because what happened right after that? Hashem said to him, now you're going to have to toil and work in order to sustain yourself. Before that, you didn't have to work for the sweat of your brow in order to make things happen. And that wasn't just physically, it's also spiritually. The reason why all of these things are difficult was because of what Hashem said to Adam after he had Pagama Brit, which means to say that if a person is Tikkun Brit, then that curse is taken away from him. And he doesn't need by the sweat of his brow to make money. He doesn't need by the sweat of his brow to toil spiritually. He's able to do it without effort. And this is what Rabbi Nachman teaches, that a person, if they achieve a certain level, money will literally just fly to him. How can it just fly to you? Because money comes from these 39 lights. And if a person has rectified his Brit, so he's drawing down these 39 lights easily, right? Same thing with health. Same thing with whatever he's looking for. A spouse. All of it's coming from that place. But if he's not, then he's pushing his spouse away. Then he's pushing money away. Then he's pushing health away. All of that is because he's destroyed the space of godliness of Hashem in his life. He's destroyed the Mishkan for himself. And then instead of the 39 works of the Mishkan, he now has Bechinat Lamed Tet Milkot. He now has the 39 what's called lashes. In the Gemara, it speaks about the fact that in the times of the Gemara, if a person was over an Avera, that he did something that was against a mitzvah in the Torah, let's say he stole something, right? So what was the punishment for stealing? It wasn't like now that you go to prison. The Torah was against prisons. It didn't see the value in prisons, right? What did the Torah say? We're going to rehabilitate you. Not that we're going to empower you by bringing you to a prison where you're going to have a better education there, you're going to have better food there than you had outside. We're going to spend all the taxpayers' monies in the civilization in the country and use it for jails and jail cells and encourage people to come there. No, you would have to go to a city and you'd have to learn from a Cohen, from a Levi. You would have to learn how to be a better person. Okay? So, but what would they receive instead? There was a punishment. The punishment was 39 lashes. So even though this sounds very intense and very extreme, especially in our generation, the truth is that if you look in certain countries, that let's say, for instance, if you steal something, then they chop your hand off. Now, I know that sounds very grotesque and barbaric, but I heard, and I don't know if it's true, I have to look it up, but I heard that the rate of stealing in that country is 0%. Nobody steals. Why? Because they know that if they do, they're going to get their hand chopped off. Now, we in America or in most other countries, we do have some type of rate of stealing, whether it's 5% or 10% or 20% or 50%. Why? Because we might not get caught. And even if we do get caught, we don't get our hand chopped off. Okay. So one of the reasons why the punishments of the Torah are very intense is to get you not to do it to begin with. Not because Hashem actually wants to do those things to you. And in fact, the Torah says that it rarely ever happened that these things took place. And once they started, if they saw that a person was too much for them, they would stop. They said about courts that they actually administered certain these things, that they should look for every way to get this person out of this punishment, out of this consequence. But we're learning that spiritually, the concept of 39 lashes is that I'm working and I'm not making any money from it. That I'm toiling spiritually and I'm not seeing any blessing from it. So that's instead of the 39 melachot of the building of the Mishkan, I'm destroying the Mishkan, so to speak. So that's called the 39 lashes. That's why it says, Arba'im yekanu velo yosif, 40 and not more. Why? Because we're seeing Zebechina Pagama Brit. Because it's called when the person's rectified his Brit, so he has the 39 lights. That comes from the Brit. That's the whole benefit of what's called Tikkun Brit. And that's what allows your prayers to get answered. That's what allows your speech to be rectified. That's what allows you to bring you to deep Torah understanding, which is what our Torah is coming to teach us about. Shehu Bechina Tov Sot. Because this is something that Rabbi Nachman says, and it's a huge chiddush, but it's clear in Kabbalah and the Arizal. Where does all suffering come from? Suffering comes from excess. We know in Kabbalah it's taught that everything in this spiritual world and the physical world has a fruit and a peel. It has what you're looking for, the blessing from it, but it also has the thing that's surrounding for you until you're ready for it. For instance, if a person is trying to get his prayer answered, his prayer getting answered is called the fruit. But for him to get there, he's going to have to pray on it for a while if it's something big. He's going to have to pray with intensity and fervor. He's going to have to show Hashem that he wants it. That's called breaking through the klipa, breaking through the peel. Or a person is trying to achieve certain spiritual level in his life. or if he's trying to make a certain amount of money, right? So that amount of money is called the fruit. But before he can get that fruit, he needs to overcome the peel. So Rabbi Nachman says that when a person settles for the peel and he doesn't know that there's fruit, that's where all sadness comes from. He says that depression and sadness comes from excess. Oh yeah, okay, sorry. אין בעיה. Yeah. כן. Sure. 1 second, guys. So what we're saying here is that 1 second, is that sadness does not come from a genetic disorder. It doesn't come from low self-esteem. All of those things are actually the product, the result of excess. That when a person is engaged in excess in the physical world, that he doesn't feel like he can get his joy from spirituality, so he invests himself in physicality beyond what's necessary. And he says that itself is what causes sadness. But this is what he's saying in general about if a person wants to have blessing in his life for any reason, he needs to avoid excess, physical excess. How does he avoid physical excess? By realizing that Hashem can give him what he needs spiritually. And when he does that, then he gets to see the fruit. So this is the next section of the Likutey Moharan. We finished it. This is a shorter lesson. And then Bezrat Hashem, the next time that we come on, we're going to see that this concept of the 39 works and the rectification of the Brit, this is corresponding to the 6 days of the week. And then there's something that happens on Shabbat as well. And we're going to see how these two things connect. It's a very beautiful thing. It's very deep. So Bezrat Hashem, we're going to do it next week. And that's going to bring us back to the beginning of this lesson where we said that Rabbi Nachman teaches every Jew needs to make two unities in their life. Shema Yisrael and Baruch Shem. We know in Shema Yisrael, there's 12 words, there's 49 letters. And those first 6 words are Shema Yisrael, that's called the upper unity. Then you have Baruch Shem, that's the lower unity. So when Rabbi Nachman says that our goal is to make unity in the world. And when we make unity in the world, then within ourselves, we draw down deep Torah understanding. And like we said before, the Torah and Hashem are one. Meaning that when we make unity in the world and within ourselves, we draw down Hashem into our life. Or these 39 lights like we're speaking about. So we're going to see how that corresponds actually to the physical week, the 6 days of the week versus Shabbat. Does anybody have any questions from today's lesson or previous lessons related to this?
Hi.
Hello.
Hi. I have a question, but I don't know. I'm not really sure if it relates to this because it's so deep. Everything's so deep that I'm not even sure if it relates to this lesson. But
Sure.
let me see if you can. So I just started keeping Shabbat. Like it's been almost 2 years, but without the rest of my family, like without my husband or my kids. And so everything's very new to me. Every holiday, everything's new. I never kept anything past Yom Kippur or Rosh Hashanah. So everything in my life is like untangling and it's backwards. Like my kids are in public school, so they think they should be in school during the high holidays where I won't go in a car. So this year I said to myself, okay, I will try my best to keep the holiday to the best of my ability. And I kept it until the day that I had no one to pick them up from school and I had no choice. And one of the rabbis told me that I made a big mistake because I was very honest. I said, yes, I went to synagogue and then I drove from the synagogue to pick up my kids because I thought that was better than not going. And apparently
Sure.
They said, no, it's not. But ever since that happened, I used to pray outside every day and do a whole set of different prayers, and I felt so connected. And suddenly, even though I'm still keeping everything, suddenly I went like downward, like everything, like it's hard for me to even speak, where I never had that issue before.
So Rabbi Nachman, he says in a lesson in Likutey Moharan that what's called rebuke, that is like when a person who's, considered a spiritual mentor or a rabbi or just anybody, tries to tell you a better way than whatever it is that you're currently doing. That's called rebuke in the Torah. It's called tochacha. Rabbi Nachman said that tochacha can elevate a person to the highest level, and it can literally destroy a person's feeling of spirituality. And he says that you need to be very careful who you receive tochacha from, because if you don't receive it from the right person, then it actually draws out all the negativity inside of you instead of lifting you up and elevating you. So he says that tochacha is exclusively for the tzaddik, that you should only really be receiving tochacha, rebuke, from the tzaddik, because that tochacha is actually sweet. It makes you feel motivated. It makes you feel elevated. It makes you feel like you're growing more and more. So I would first tell you that even if you did make an error,
Sure.
so we all make errors,
No.
I made an error today. I made an error yesterday.
You're telling me this right now, right?
Rabbi Nachman says, one second.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
Rabbi Nachman says that, like the Gemara says, we're people, we're not angels, okay? And you're growing, and you're a mother, and you have children, and you made the decision that you felt was the bigger mitzvah, so you had the right intentions, and Hashem knows that. So therefore, I would say to you, to try to have as much as you can, and to pray on this, to have filters for yourself. It's often the case that we allow everything that's said to us to affect us, or that we feel like everything that somebody says is important or necessary, or I need to believe that, or I need to invest in that, and we don't. And in fact, according to Rabbi Nachman, it's a very dangerous, precarious thing to listen to what people have to say to you, especially when it comes to spirituality. So one of the things that I pray on is that I receive my tochacha, I receive my spiritual guidance from true tzaddikim only. And therefore, if someone else gives me some type of tip or admonishment or challenge, I don't pay any attention to it. Not that I don't pay attention to them or that I don't validate them, but that I protect myself from what would be called negative tochacha or bad advice. So I would encourage you not to be down at all. I would encourage you to do a zama, like Rabbi Nachman says, that is to look for the good, specifically in what happened. That it's even amazing that I got to the point that I've been doing this for 2 years, and it's been 2 years that I've kept the chagim when my whole family is not keeping anything. You're like a hero, and the fact that you did this, it wasn't like so that you can watch Netflix or that you can like go to your favorite non-kosher restaurant. You did it because you want to pick up your kids from school because you didn't think they would be able to get picked up. So you have to do a zamra, and that's how you start over again. The way you start over is you look for the good, and even if within the good, Rabbi Nachman says, you find like something that's off, then look deeper for more good, and you keep doing it until you're happy. And this is the way to start over. And also, like the Baal Shem Tov teaches, and something that Rabbi Nachman hammers home, you can only rise higher than you were previously if you fall. So this is something to try to build into your consciousness and to pray on every day, to know that when I have a setback, the setback is really only to move me forward. So if, for instance, this person said something and now I went down, it's because it's actually so I can go back up higher. Okay? So therefore, when it happens, you can say to Hashem, thank you that you pushed me down so that I can jump higher. It's like a bungee cord. The harder you throw it down, the higher up it goes. And then you bring that back to Hashem. So these two things, the concept of a zamra, thanking Hashem, and seeing the good in yourself, judging yourself favorably. Rabbi Nachman says this itself can bring you to tshuva, meaning to bring you to a greater closeness to Hashem and to elevate yourself spiritually, and also really trying to recognize that whether it's good, that means that you're growing spiritually, or you have a setback in anything, that setback really means you hit the next level. And therefore, what happens is that the forces of negativity come upon you and they get hurled on you. And then all of a sudden you feel like you lost all your growth. So I know I had people like students who came with me to Uman. When we came back, they're like, I don't know what happened. I felt like I had such a high over there. And I came back and I just felt nothing. Like it was hard for me to put into tefillin. It's hard for me to do anything. Like it just, and I told them it's because you're at the next level. You know? So I would say the same thing by you.
Thank you so much. That's helpful, because I was starting to feel like guilt, like the negativity was starting to. I'm like, but I kept thinking I've accomplished so much, but doesn't that? I started to question. I'm like, doesn't that count for anything? Because I was like pained to even get in the car. Like it wasn't like I wanted to get in the car.
Right.
But now I understand. Thank you so much.
Yeah, of course. You're welcome. Any other questions?
Rabbi.
Yes.
Shalom, how are you?
Great, thank God. Baruch Hashem, how are you?
Baruch Hashem. I want to make a question. I thank you so much for the eitzah that you just gave her. It momish brings tears to my eyes, because when I hear you give over that eitzah, it reminds me of reading the first words from the Rebbe. And it brought tears to my eyes, reading his words for the first time. And hearing you, I feel the connection of the Breslov Rebbe, Rabbi Nachman. So I thank you for the tremendous amount of work that you're doing. It's not going in vain, and that you have a great degree of strength, and that you be strengthened, and that we are praying for you, that you continue to do the important work that you're doing.
Thank you so much, Lila.
So much.
I appreciate it. I love you, brother.
Love you too, Rob.
Wow, Rabbi, that's amazing. It's interesting. So I was just reading this, the Zomra AA book yesterday during Shabbat about the fall and then the rise for the next level.
Yeah, you always have to fall before you rise. Always have to fall.
I'm just thinking of myself as driving into the job site. I was reading this yesterday, so it's just telling me that this is the right way.
100%. This is the gift of Rabbi Nachman is like I heard somebody say, I think it was Joey Rosenfeld, and if you never had a chance to listen to him, I'd highly suggest it. He's very special, and he has a whole series of shiurim on Rabbi Nachman, and he's also a therapist, and he's an addiction counselor. And so someone told me that he said that the koach of Rabbi Nachman is that he shows you that you can be completely broken and shattered and still live a really good life. And this is only what Rabbi Nachman can do. So, we're doing this together. And, I've been pushed down many, many, many times. And the key is to get back up. And this is what makes you a tzaddik. We often think that the greatest success is when things go the way that I hope they're gonna. And this is a fallacy. I told you this teaching before, that Adam Rishon, the first man, Adam, he represents all time. This is what Yitzhak Ginsburg, Rav Ginsburg says. So he says the Aleph represents the prior, before time. And Mem, at the end of Adam, represents Mashiach. That's after. So what's now the present? That's the Dalet, that's David. So he said that what's the avoda of David? What's the avoda of this world, of our life? what are we really doing here? So he says it's the pasuk that it says that the tzaddik, he falls down and then he gets back up. That's the whole avoda, to just get back up. That this is the success of this world. And I already know that if you're listening to me, I already know that if you're learning Rabbi Nachman and you connect to him, I know that you have had a million ups and downs, and you can't possibly explain to me or to anybody what you've been through in your life. And there's a much bigger chance that you're a huge hero, and not this horrible person that we often think that we are, and that we can never get it right, and all these things. You guys are here and you're fighting, and this is Hashem's greatest anah. This is Hashem's greatest happiness, and we're gonna get there. We're gonna do it. Trust me. If I could do it, anybody can do it. That doesn't mean it's not gonna be really hard. And doesn't mean I've gotten there. I haven't gotten there, but we have shoulders to lean on now. We're not a herd without a shepherd. We have really, really good advice, and it works. And we have the most brilliant wisdom, and we have support like you can't imagine. And Rabbeinu's pulling for us, and Hashem is pulling for us. Right? Rabbi Nachman, Rav Natan, I think it was Rav Natan actually said that nobody's going to appreciate the beauty of the Breslover Hasidim until the Mashiach comes. Until then, we're always going to be despised. And obviously, we see that there's a huge stigma with us. But I think even more than that, he's speaking about ourselves, that we ourselves feel lowly, that we don't feel like we've achieved what we should have, or we're not doing what we could be doing. And I think only when Mashiach comes, we're going to see how beautiful we really are and how heroic our lives have been. And like Rabbi Nachman says, that every single one of his students will ultimately have stories written about him. So, Sut Hashem, we should all see that soon. I see there's a couple comments on the bottom. I just want to see if there's a question. Is it acceptable to learn Breslov in Chabad? Isn't it from the Baal Shem Tov? Rabbi Nachman says you should learn everything. So for sure, it's good to learn Breslov. And it's good to learn the teachings of Chabad also. They do both come from the Baal Shem Tov. The Baal Shem Tov is like a ocean that splits into 70 streams. One of those streams is Chabad, one of those streams is Breslov. And everybody connects differently and finds that they're like shorish, the root of the neshama is in one of these more or less, and it's all good. Whatever makes you feel closer to Hashem, you should learn that. So, is there any other questions? No? Okay.
Rabbi,
Everybody having
quick,
Yeah.
sorry. Is this going to be put on the chat?
Yeah, Bezrat Hashem, this class is being recorded, and with Hashem's help, it's going to go up as soon as the COO of Zion Breslov sees it. He's going to put it up, and then it's going to be sent out to all the chats.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Have a good one.
Yeah, have a great night. Oh, by the way, everybody, if you didn't get a chance to look at our newsletter from this past week, it's really good. I feel better about that article than probably anything I ever wrote. It's not so long. So if you didn't see it yet, it's in the groups. And if you want to be on the news feed that like every week right before Shabbat, you get it so you can read it on Shabbat. It's really, really nice. And it's a nice addition. And it's another way to connect to these teachings and to internalize them. I write on it, and other writers from Zion Breslov that are very talented are on there as well, talking about the Parsha and different current topics that relate to us personally. So check out that. It's called Sarah's Beauty. That was the article that I wrote last, and it's really beautiful. So everybody have an amazing, amazing night, an amazing day.